Hello students, welcome to ePathshala. I am Arjinder Kaur and I am working as Assistant Professor in the Department of Political Science, Postgraduate Government College, Sector 11, Chandigarh. Through this module, we will try and understand the relationship of India with the countries of Central Asia. Central Asia has become a hotbed of power struggle in the 21st century, especially after the fall of Soviet Union. After the disintegration of the Soviet Union, this region has become a buffer zone between Asia and Europe. Also, this region is very important in terms of its reserves of oil and many other resources that the other countries keep an eye on for harnessing. Similarly, in this scenario, India is also interested in having close ties with the relationship of these 5 countries of Central Asia. And hence, India is trying to maintain its relationship in economic terms, in cultural terms, in strategic terms with these countries. The problem that India is facing in having these relationships with these countries is because of the lack of direct transport communication system with these countries. Through this module, we will try and understand how this relationship of Central Asia with India has developed historically. Objectives. Through this module, an effort will be made to apprise the students about the real nature of India's relations with Central Asia. This region is to be considered next hotbed for power struggle in the 21st century. India, as an immediate neighbor, could not remain mere spectator in this scenario. It could not take risk to ignore this region in its policy orientation. Therefore, it becomes imperative to understand and evaluate the historical perspective about the origin of their relationship. Historical evolution. India and Central Asia have great civilization contacts in history. These relations predate the arrival of the Turkish tribes from Central Asia and older than the Islamic conquest of the region. Some scholars also emphasized on the Aryans and Vedas linkages between the two. Kushan period and Silk Route connection has been a landmark in the historical relations between India and Central Asia. The gentle human spirit of Buddhism held sway over the entire region. Besides, the Khiljis, the Tughlaqs, the Lodhis, the Suris, and the Mughals were all related to this region in one way or the other. After independence, India's relations with this region remained fruitful and cordial. Indian top leadership always made it a point to visit these republics. Indian culture and films enjoyed considerable popularity in this region during Soviet regime. Hence, any analysis of the new geopolitical significance of Central Asia and its implication for India must take into consideration not only the current developments but also the historical linkages these countries have with India. The importance of Central Asia to India. Due to its strategic location, demographic composition, and availability of oil and mineral wealth, Central Asia has been vital for global politics in general and India in particular. In order to examine the real nature of India's policy towards this region, it is equally essential to understand the defining features of this region. The Central Asian republics have the enormous hydrocarbon reserves between 90 to 200 billion barrels of oil and 46% of the known world gas reserves. The Kars are trying to diversify their economies and are engaged in new partnerships to enhance economic cooperation. Simultaneously, India's energy demand is rising rapidly with economic growth. It is making efforts to look for reliable long-term sources of energy to boost its economy. Thus, Central Asia has the potential to emerge as an important long-term energy provider to India. Besides, underdeveloped economy and weak socio-economic infrastructure of these countries offer rich opportunities to technically skilled local force and natural resources to Indian entrepreneurs desirous of setting up joint ventures in Central Asia. All these economic trends compel India for positive engagement in this region. The geographical location, mineral and oil wealth, and rise of Islamic fundamentalism make Kars an important area from strategic point of view. Russia, China, Afghanistan, and Iran border Central Asia, and it lies a few miles from Pakistan and Indian borders. This becomes crucial as it is surrounded by the likely regional powers of the next century, four of which are declared nuclear weapon states. This scenario, combined with economic wealth, has made this region an area of power politics. Any change in the geopolitical balance in Central Asia is likely to have grave consequences for the strategic balance in South Asia. Besides, other related issues like terrorism, drug trafficking, security, regional grouping, oil and energy needs, defense attractions, etc., may also determine India's strategic interests in this region. The demographic composition of Central Asia is of plural character, where people of different languages, nationalities, and ethnicity live to form a composite culture. In view of the polyethnic composition and artificially drawn state borders in these republics have the possibilities of inter-ethnic tensions and conflicts. Besides, Islam constitutes the major belief of the majority of people. The disappearance of Soviet ideology has left a vacuum in the beliefs and value system, leaving search for an alternative ideology in this region. There persists a danger of the emergence of fundamentalist activities. This has the direct bearings for India's security. Pakistan has always occupied a central place in India's foreign policy. The fluid situation in Central Asia offers opportunities to the Pakistan to enhance its anti-India program relying on Islamic fraternity. It has supported Islamic revivalism in this area wholeheartedly. This is a matter of deep concern for India's policymakers. Hence, due to economic alignment, strategic scenario, and fragile political setup, this region is considered as a very significant area by outside powers including India. It makes imperative for India to look towards this area with more seriousness due to its geo-economic and geostrategic implication for India. Bilateral relations. India's policy with this region, which took a distinctive shape since the early 1990s, has been a multi-pronged approach encompassing political, economic, and strategic aspects. A brief description of these initiatives is herewith. Economic relations. The dynamics and strength of bilateral ties are bound to grow, given the historical and significant interest India has evinced in this region. India has identified a number of sectors in which it has considerable strength for cooperation. These are automobile industry, textiles, hotels, banking and insurance, drug and pharmaceuticals, etc. India has also offered facilities for training of Central Asian journalists, diplomats and students through Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation ITEC program. India had also signed the Treaty on Principle of Interstate Cooperation and Bilateral Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement BIPA with each of these republics for trade promotion. They also have established Joint Commission to promote economic and technological linkages. It contains normal features of trade agreements such as mutual most favored nation treatment, promotion of economic, industrial, scientific and technical cooperation. Commerce and Industry Ministry of India has launched a Focus CIS program at the time of announcement of its EXIM policy in March 2003. Under this program, the Government of India extends assistance to exporters, EPCs, business chambers, etc. to visit these countries, organized trade fairs, invite trade delegations to visit India, and undertake various other market promotional activities. The level of investment is quite modest between India and Central Asia republics. A number of Indian companies like state-owned Indian Oil Company ONGC Videsh Limited, Ispat Karmat, Larsen and Tobro, Phoenix, Aska International, Tirupati Overseas, Climate Export Import, Birla Technical, Anjali International, etc., are already doing good business in Central Asian republics. They have their operations in these states and increasing their market share every year through opening of their offices, agencies, and appointing permanent agents. Joint ventures were envisaged in the railway, science and technology, construction, tourism, health and trade and commerce. Gufic Avicennide Limited, Reddy Pharmad Limited, Rusin Pharma Limited, etc. are the main joint ventures established in this region. In construction sector, MS Tata Projects Limited and MS Larsen and Toubro completed the construction of hotels in Tashkent, Samarkand and Bukhara. Telecommunication Consultants India Limited (TCIL) and Department of Post of Uzbekistan are jointly implementing the two pilot projects in Tashkent for cooperation in mail transmission, EMS and other related items. India and all Central Asian countries have established Joint Commission to promote economic and technological linkages. The first session of Indo-Kazakh Joint Commission was held in Delhi in July 1993. The fifth session was held in Astana in 2005. Agreements were made for smooth transfer of technology and enriched uranium pellets used as fuel in atomic reactor to India. The Confederation of Indian Industries (CII) has been regularly organizing Enterprise India exhibitions in the capitals of all the republics to serve as platform for the Indian small and medium enterprises (SMEs) there. Besides, Made in India trade shows and fairs were also organized in various cities by CII. India's trade with this region as a whole has grown significantly in the figures since 2004 and are taken into account. In the year of 2014-15, India's trade showed more growth as it reached at a total of rupees 8,41,875 lakhs with the export of rupees 3,69,565 and import of rupees 4,72,310 lakhs. On the whole, the level of trade has been much below from their potential. The entire Indian export to these countries is less than 2% of its total exports. The imports also follow a similar picture and account only for 1.5% of the Indian imports on the average basis. Though India-Cars bilateral trade may be small in volume, yet it has been growing steadily over the years and holds potential for further growth and diversification. India and these countries can be of great help to each other. Convergence on these interests would bring together the main producers and consumers of oil in Asia. In this respect, both India and Central Asian republics are making serious efforts to create the right kind of atmosphere for collaboration in this field. They have decided that cooperation in the hydrocarbon sector would involve not only exploration but also investments for upgradation and moderation of existing infrastructure facilities such as refineries and pipelines as well as training program. After that, state-owned Indian Oil Company ONGC Videsh Limited had invested in various projects of oil production in this region despite facing tough competition from other stakeholders. But the real problem is lying with the issue of connectivity with this region, as India has no direct border with this landlocked region. Besides the bilateral efforts, both are taking keen interest in opening their options by linking themselves to other regional countries. Iran, Russia, and Afghanistan have emerged as the potential ally in this respect. North-South Transport Agreement among India, Iran, and Russia in September 2000 and earlier Tripartite Transport Agreement among India, Iran, and Turkmenistan in 1995 is such steps in this direction. The signing of a trilateral agreement between India, Iran, and Afghanistan is another important step in this direction. Revival of ancient Silk Route is the other notion that looms large time to time for the linkages to this region. Laying down of oil and gas pipelines are another way to get connected to this region. The proposed Turkmenistan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, India gas pipeline project has assumed new significance to get access in this oil field. The governments of major stakeholders, including India, are taking keen interest in the construction of oil and gas pipelines for easy transportation of these reserves. Strategic relations. The region of Central Asia emerged as an important area of strategic concern for India in post-Cold War period. India stepped up its diplomatic efforts towards stability and security of this region. The main issues that determine India's strategic interest in cars are herewith. The new scenario of spheres of influence to secure energy resources has made Central Asia strategically significant in post-Cold War period. The growing international competition for influence in this region causes a security concern for India as well as Central Asia itself. Cars wish to become partners of these external powers to the extent that it suits their respective national interests, along with their survival and autonomy in international relations. India enjoyed better position in Central Asia due to its track record in its external relations. India never followed any unscrupulous designs in its foreign relations. It is keen to develop healthy relations based on positive engagement and mutual understanding. Interests of both, thus, converge in terms of their beliefs of defense, security, and stability in this area. The combination of religious fundamentalism, nationalist separatism, and international terrorism pose greatest threat to the security and stability of this region furthermore. There is considerable similarity in the nature, sources, pattern, and methodology of these problems, as both India and Kars share two sides of the hotbed of international terrorism, that is, the state of Pakistan and Afghanistan. So they face a common threat from cross-border terrorism from Islamic extremists abetted by neighboring countries. In this regard, convergence between India and Central Asia may emerge in this issue. Leaders of both India and these states have expressed their common resolve that Afghanistan may not be allowed to be used as safe haven for terrorism. They are of the view that further efforts are needed for the long-term establishment of a broad-based multi-ethnic and independent government in Afghanistan. In fact, the problems related to Central Asia are not only being addressed at the bilateral level but also in various regional forms like CIS, Collective Security, and Shanghai 5. Besides, CICA Summit and Bishkek Conference is the landmark in bringing the concerned state together in collectively countering these problems with the shared goodwill of like-minded countries. The emergence of these regional forums is the positive process in Asian continent. India fully supported all these initiatives and recently joined the much-talked Shanghai 5 as full member. Only thing that raised some serious questions in India as well as Central Asia perspective is of China's dubious postulate in regional grouping. At bilateral level also, India signed defense deals with most of these republics. India rebuilt an air base camp at Ayani in Tajikistan near Afghanistan border and could therefore be used for energy security interests and for operations against terrorism in this region. India also signed a deal with Kazakhstan for smooth delivery of uranium for energy sector recently. Political relations. India is following a policy of consistent engagement with Kars with its inception. These states also have reciprocated Indian gestures in positive manner. India seemed to have developed warm niches for itself in the minds of policy makers of these states. Reciprocal visits, shared demographic beliefs and values, convergence on the issue of New World Order and cultural initiatives highlights this cordial relationship between India and Kars. A clear idea of political interaction between the two can be manifested by discussing these issues. A large number of exchanges at various levels of delegates, governmental, private, commercial, have been undertaken between India and Central Asia republics to explore the possibilities of mutual grounds for enhancing cooperation. Top leaders of both India and Central Asia have visited each other at regular intervals. Indian top leadership also have made goodwill gestures by visiting Kars regularly. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to all five republics in 2015 is considered as one of the most remarkable steps taken by India towards strengthening its ties with this region. Besides, a large number of top ministers and bureaucrats also visited to each other's country in these years. During these visits, talks on a wide range of issues of mutual interest and international significance were held. The region of Central Asia constitutes a composite culture cohering as a distinct entity by ethnic, linguistic, and religious affinities. The predominantly Muslim population of all the states has drastically changed the political scenario of this region. The ethnic orientation of these republics is further marked by subdivision within the main groups themselves. Similarly, India is a plural society where Muslim population also forms an important component of its population. Any disturbance in demographic composition has direct spillover impact on Indian system. It will have serious implications for India's policies in future as well. India is baffled by the development in this area. In this context, the sharing of demographic beliefs and values amongst them may provide a binding framework to these diverse manifestations. The best course for such societies is an open, liberal, secular, and demographic political system. India to a large extent has succeeded in establishing and experimenting with such a system. The Central Asian leadership at present seems to be committed to establish such a political system, and India can play a positive role in helping them by offering training facilities to acquaint them with the functioning democracy in a developing society. Thus, they are working for such a countering mechanism that encourages ethnic, religious, and linguistic discord to be resolved among different sections of people. Both are of the view that only democratization in these states can resolve their problems. Consequently, both are vocal supporters of secular ethos, which is fundamental for the growth of democratic culture in these states. This convergence consolidates political relations furthermore. Both India and Kars share similar views on most of the questions dealing with the dynamics of emerging New World Order. Such questions include the world stability, regional and global integration of countries, and also welfare and prosperity of the people. They are of the view that emerging new world has to be based on democratic principles and cooperation among all the members of international community. Political interaction between India and these countries of Central Asia has been regular and mutually supportive in United Nations and other international organizations on various issues. On the issue of democratization of United Nations, both India and Central Asian republics agreed to the expansion of Security Council to make it more representative and efficient. All these countries, noting the role being played by India in the world affairs, support India as an appropriate candidate as a permanent member of restructured United Nations Security Council. India is following a pro-activist policy of cultural interactions with these republics. Indian cultural centers are also established in most of these countries. Indian Council for Cultural Relations is also providing 30 full scholarship to the students from Central Asia. Festival of Central Asia was also organized in major cities of India in these years. Apart from events at these centers as well as activities including reciprocal days of culture, scholarly exchanges have also been taken in the form of frequent visits, seminars, etc. In addition, one slot for learning Hindi in India is also allotted to the students of these states. Potential of tourism is highly noticed in mutual interaction of India and these states. This will not only provide profit but also help in building up people-to-people contact. Let me conclude by saying that the relationship between the Central Asian countries and India has developed in a very unique way. We have entered into a very good relationship with these countries in terms of economic, strategic, cultural and political ties. Of course, there have been a lot of problems which are being taken care of by the present governments. These problems are in terms of having a lack of transport communication system with these countries, inadequacy of information about business opportunities, and lack of inadequacy of information regarding banking and finance resources as well. But the governments on the both sides are trying to improve their relationship in terms of having good relationship in business terms as well. Of course, along with this, India can have a better relationship with these countries if it supports the regionalism in these countries. And for this, India will need to have more economic reforms in its own policies before having good say and having more important say in the policy orientation towards these countries. Thank you.